Alright, I'm just gonna give a second to let people hop on, and I'm gonna just double check that I can see everyone's comments. Let's see. Here we go. Okay, cool. So clarity is one of the best agents for having a radical, permanent mental shift that exists. So in other words, clarity is a powerful tool in the mindset training, and I'm going to explain why. Hi, I'm Nicole Crane, and I'm going to be focusing on visualization and empowerment through clarity for tonight's mini lecture. I'll be leaving this recording up for the next week so that you can catch the replay or rewatch it. And then I'm going to be deleting it off my page here next Monday, right before the next Mindset Monday comes out. But until the end of the year, I'll be sharing all of these recordings on my YouTube channel, Nicole Crane Coaching, so you can find them over there. So to dive right into tonight's topic, oh, sorry, I'm just trying to make sure that everything's all centered. There we go. Okay, perfect. So when we allow ourselves to connect with the power of our imagination, all sorts of details and specifics start to emerge. But the problem is that most of us never actually find the inspiration to go through the process of getting clear on what success looks like for us or what happiness would look like to us. So when we're trying to do something in the physical world, taking it from our mental clarity into reality, we're doing it from this like really limited, resourceless state. So I want you to ask yourself, when was the last time you sat down and actually dreamed about what your business for the next 3 months looked like, or what the most fulfilling relationship, or your next staycation, or your next big artistic project will look like? Whatever success or like your biggest life dream right now looks like for you. So if we get really honest, for most of us, it's probably a really long time ago when we actually did this, or maybe it was never, right? So, okay, there we go. Now I can see the screen and my notes. Perfect. So, the most successful people in the world do this on a regular basis. And once they achieve their goals, they do it again based on their new goals. And this is something that they're very familiar with. Athletes are probably the best example of people who've been doing this longer than anyone. Like they visualize shooting hoops and making it over and over again. And studies show that our brains don't even know the difference between using our imagination to practice something and us actually physically doing it. So it lights up the same areas of the brain either way. So once you get clarity around the specifics of your goals, you start to define your life based on this, and your life has no choice but to start unfolding exactly in this way. And although I love studying and practicing and talking about magic, this is not a magical phenomenon at all. The Libratory is probably the least woo-woo and the most science-based offering I've ever done. So this phenomenon of life meeting you in your and supporting your dream reality, it occurs because your brain can't help but to keep revisiting this dream and imagining it again and again, and eventually it starts to build what feel like memories of your future. I know that that's kind of a trippy concept, but if you've used this tool a lot, you're probably super familiar with like what I mean by that. But by resetting this as the new baseline for your new normal, this gives you access to new ideas and new inspirations to make this your reality. So it puts your reticular activating system, which we talked a little bit about last week, to work on focusing on the things that will help you to get there. So most people are frustrated with the results they get because they're so focused on what they don't want in life. And this is super, super key. So I'm actually going to say that one more time just in case you didn't catch it the first time. So most people are frustrated with the results they get in life because they're so focused on what they don't want. So a lot of times this means that you never think about what you do want. So let's do a check-in on this. If I were to ask you what you want most out of life, could you tell me like right off the top of your head? Or would you kind of get stuck in all the things that you already have that you don't want? This is really important. So I want to share a personal story of how this works, because I feel like unless you've done this a couple times, and even if you have, like, we just forget because society doesn't program us this way. It doesn't feel natural and normal until you've done it like a bunch of times. And then you start to expect miraculous, unusual, surprising outcomes. So when my angel investor asked me what I wanted to do with my life, I was lucky enough that I already knew that I wanted to become a coach. So that was super, super clear. But what was even luckier is that he gave me a couple days to put together a proposal on how much it would cost for my training and how long the program that I enrolled in would take, because I didn't know off the top of my head. And if he had needed to know that right then for me to be able to receive that support and that investment, I would have lost that opportunity. So especially if you're building a business, but actually with any dream that you're building right now, this is super key. So knowing what I wanted and him being able to see that I had already started taking steps towards getting there opened up that opportunity for me. So if you don't know how much money you need to raise your for your education or your business startup loan or in vitro treatments or whatever, you can't acquire that amount of money. You can't develop a plan to raise that amount of money or to be able to ask for it if your best friend won the lottery and wanted to make both of your dreams come true. So you can get so focused on the fact that you don't have the money that you don't have access to the clarity around how much money or what specific skills or what tools or what other resources you actually need. So that's what we do naturally tend to do, right? It's an old caveman or cavewoman programming, and our brains are so wired for survival that it isn't available for focusing on thriving unless we actually go in and reprogram the brain to be, right? So in the laboratory, I walk you through a process for you to get absolute clarity on what you want to accomplish in this area of life where your biggest dream could be happening. And I know that if you're an analytical type, you're asking yourself how this works. And the really crazy thing is that you don't need to know right now. We don't need to know the entire plan. And we actually don't have to do all the work that we think we need to do. We have to do the inner work to change our inner world, though. So that means that we have to be conscious of the decisions that we've made and the belief systems that spring from those decisions, and be sure that we're constantly bringing energy into our lives through gratitude, which we touched on a little bit last week as well. And then life starts to bring these opportunities to us, and we can just step up and say yes. So I'm not saying that you don't have to take any action. You definitely do. So my favorite example of this is that scene from Orange is the New Black where the woman who owns a convenience store sold that guy a spell candle or some kind of magical kit, basically, to help him get a job, and he came back really angry because it didn't work. So she asked him if he did all the steps, filling out the application, lighting the candle, and he said yes, yes. And then she asks him if he took a copy of the application to the place where he wanted to work. And he's like surprised because he didn't do that step. So from the outside perspective, you're like, duh, how could you possibly get a job that you didn't even apply for? But sometimes we get so stuck in these like the how and the solutions and things that we skip obvious steps. So once you get clarity, it becomes way, way, way easier to remove fear, and things just kind of come into focus in a totally different way, and then it makes it easier to just do the next baby step, and then after that the next baby step. So the important part here is that we stop holding back out of fear and we start taking action. And it's so much less about the action that we take and way more about the fact that we're taking consistent and conscious steps in the right direction. So we're not just like throwing spaghetti at the wall and seeing what sticks. We're breaking it down into mini steps and then just doing what we can, and then once that's done, doing the next thing that we can, right? So we're intentionally creating our lives instead of living the default life that kind of shows up when we're not paying attention and then feeling frustrated and disappointed about that. So instead of just doing things differently, we start to become someone different. someone more directed, someone more empowered, more decisive. We start becoming the person that we need to be to do the things that we need to do, to have the experiences that we want to have. So this is how we start making huge changes in our lives. So just to reiterate for those over-analytical types, you don't need to see the whole plan, you just need to know what the next step is. And you need to do that from a place of clarity and consciousness instead of freaking out and just being like, but I have to do this. So it really opens up a lot of possibilities when you have this clarity. And then just to double down again on the importance of clarity, coming back to that original statement, that clarity is one of the best agents for having radical permanent mental shifts that exists. So just to break that down a little bit, like you can have small incremental mental shifts where you go from like hating dogs to just like tolerating dogs to like being okay that other people like dogs to just like whatever, you know. But I think that like going from like hating dogs, being afraid of dogs, to loving and owning a dog is like a different level or a huge paradigm shift, right? So in order for these like surprising radical shifts to happen, you really need to have clarity on how to get from there to here, right? So it's really similar to empowered decisions in the sense that when we make new decisions, the brain doesn't know the difference and we start to reprogram the brain. So clarity is just a way to enhance that method. So every time that you add another detail to the visualization of the dream for your future, it creates a small change in your brain. And visualization and clarity are closely related. So clarity is used to set a strong foundation, and then visualization deepens the channels of your neuronal pathways in the brain. So this means that every time we go in and we visualize the details that you've fleshed out for your dream life, for what success looks like for you, the myelin sheaths in your brain start to thicken more and more around that thought pattern. So over the long term, the brain starts to default to those neurosynaptic connections more and more when you think about the future and what your reality will look like. So that means the inspiration that you have, the creative ideas that you come up with, the opportunities that you start to notice, and the coincidences that start unfolding for you are all aligned with that outcome created by that clarity. So in the Libratory, I'll take you through a specific meditation process where you're going to gain this clarity. But since I'm trying to keep these lectures around or under 15 minutes, I'm just going to give you some homework for those of you following along at home. So the homework is to set a timer for 5 minutes at first, or if you have had practice with visualization before, you can set it for 10 minutes. And I'd like to invite you to flesh out this dream future reality with all 5 senses. So with taste, touch, smell, sight, and sound, and give details and specifics to each of those 5 senses. So if you'd like some more personal support around this, I still have 3 spots left at the half price for one-on-one coaching through the Libratory. And I'll post a little bit more about this specifically tomorrow, but I'm really focusing on accessibility with this program. So part of that is financial accessibility, because not everyone wants to share these really intimate desires in a group setting, but I'm basically offering these one-on-one sessions for group pricing until November 24th, or the first 3 people that sign up. So that's kind of the cutoff for that pricing if those spots aren't already filled. So the other reason that is that Libras are the sign of the intellect. And with everything that's been shifting worldwide throughout this entire year, I feel like taking an intellectual approach to change feels a lot safer than getting really deep into the body with some of the somatic integration techniques that I usually like to do. So the caveat here is that there is 1 week in the Libratory where we do integrate the body to achieve that balance that Libras are also famous for. But for the most part, we're focusing on rewiring the brain and hacking our minds to achieve these major shifts. And because of that, we get a lot done quickly by staying kind of at the surface level and not like disturbing all the stuff underneath that really doesn't need to be touched to see the results that we're after. So it's kind of a, I hate to say shortcut because there's still a lot of work involved because we're co-creating this process. That's one of the biggest differences between, like, say, coaching and consulting is that we put a plan together, but you're the one who takes all the actions. I just kind of give you accountability and check in with you, see how you're doing, cheer you on, but I'm not going to do any of this work for you. You're going to be the one committing to doing all the work. So I just added a buy now button to the website. So if you're already really excited to jump right in, you don't have to schedule a clarity call first anymore. You can just get signed up right away and then schedule your appointment for the time that works for you, and we can get right to work. So I'm going to pop that link in the comments in case you're that excited. Okay, there we go. Cool. So, and then if you want a little bit of deeper clarity around which area of your life you're most craving change in, I still do want to do 50 free clarity calls before 2021 starts. So it's totally okay if you want to go through that process together before you decide that you want to commit to doing the 6-week one-on-one coaching program. So if you sign up for a clarity call, I take you through the process that we do in week 2 of the Liberatory, where we go through a bunch of different values and you choose the most important ones that you get the most satisfaction out of life through. So it can be a little intense. I just started redoing mine this morning, and it's been really interesting so far to see how being in self-quarantine and going through all these social shifts that are happening this year have affected my values from the ones that I had last year. It's not drastically different, but it's definitely different. So that's the fascinating thing. This isn't like a personality test where it's kind of similar throughout your entire life. It's really interesting how your values can kind of change a little bit from time to time depending on what's happening. So by the end of this 45-minute session, you're going to have a basic map of the direction that you need to be heading in to unlock the most happiness and satisfaction in your life. And even if you're not ready to jump into the Liberatory just yet, it will still give you a good idea of the next steps that you need to take to get there and to start opening up those possibilities for you to begin noticing. So you can book that free session from the same link that I just dropped in the comments. And right now, most of the sessions are booked out about a week in advance, so jump on those as soon as possible if you want one. So I will see you next week, and thanks for tuning in. If you have any questions, you can just drop them in the comments and I'll come back to them, or you can privately message me as well. So thanks so much. We'll see you soon. Bye.